Welcome to the Cabernet, Teil 2.
I'm Greg.
I'm Julie, and we're the Crafty Winers.
What the heck was that?
Teil 2. That's part 2 in German. And I know you're scratching your head, some of you out there, but this particular Cabernet we called Cabernet. I'm not going to explain it any further than that. If you know, you know.
And I don't.
Yes, you do. I was in it and you saw it.
I didn't remember the German part.
Yes, it takes place in Berlin.
So, we are going to rack the Cabernet we started a couple weeks ago.
On the 4th of this month.
It's the 25th today.
Yep.
So the initial gravity on this one was, she has the batch label over there.
Sorry. Initial gravity was 1.108.
And the final gravity,
Is 1.016.
so it didn't go completely dry. We have a theory as to why we've had this issue a couple times with especially with our reds. We did convert our fermenting room to be 55 degrees, and we have carboy heaters, and we have them set to 77. But as Julie figured out, that doesn't mean that all of the wine is going to be 77, because some of the carboy is exposed to the air. So just because the heater is 77 doesn't mean the wine is. So we did some testing, and sure enough, it's actually around 70 degrees. So that cool temperature is probably part of the reason it's not going completely dry. So we have taken corrective steps. We have raised the temperature on the carboy heaters, and we verified that now the internal temperature of the wine is 77 degrees. So we're hoping to have some better success on going dry.
Hopefully that'll fix it.
But this is dry enough, and it's still,
It's 12.42.
yeah, at almost 13%.
But
so
that's not, I mean, that's fine.
it's great. It's going to be fine.
I think our next one will be better, but because our whites have all turned out.
And the whites like the cooler temperatures,
Yeah.
and they have been going dry. So dry, if you're not familiar with the term, is if the hydrometer comes back with a specific gravity of less than 1.000. That means that there's more alcohol than there is sugar, basically. So we're going to enjoy this wine. It's going to be fine, and
Yep.
we haven't tasted it yet.
That's true, we haven't.
And we probably will after we rack it. So racking it is transferring it from the primary fermenter into this that we're going to store it in for a few weeks at least. And we are doing this so that you can see it. So it's above my head, which means I might get wine on me. Normally we
it
would
happens
do this.
sometimes.
We would do this lower so that we don't have that problem, but we want you to be able to see what we're doing.
You can't see me if I'm on the floor, so that doesn't work very well. I mean, Pippin's down there, though.
Oh, and this is the second video that we've had our corgi cam, so we can show you what the corgis are doing.
Which is not a heck of a lot right now.
And I made sure that I have socks that don't have holes in them today.
Thank you for that.
So to start the auto siphon, you just plunge it up and down a couple of times, and it will start. And the last video we did went really long because I talked throughout most of this process and couldn't cut that out, so
He's not going to.
I'm going to be quiet so that we can get to the end of the video sooner for you. See how much quicker this goes when I don't talk through it like I did on the Chardonnay one?
Everything goes quicker if you don't talk through it.
So now I am tilting this so that we get all of the wine that we can. I don't want to get the lees, which is the crap that's at the bottom. All I want is wine, and you need to be careful to keep this in the wine because if it comes out, it can be kind of hard to restart. And that is all we're going to get. So here's where I typically get it on me. Let's see if I can keep from doing that.
Oh yeah, and I wore a white shirt. That was brilliant.
We did okay. We're going to clear this stuff off that we don't need, and we'll be right back.
All right, so the first thing we're going to do is put in a few ingredients, and we're going to put one in first before the rest of them. And we're going to put this Kieselsol in it, 1/8 of a teaspoon. I'm just going to put it directly in here, and we're going to stir it. And there's a reason for that, and he'll explain.
It needs time to work before we put its partner in, which is Cheeto sand.
Yeah, this.
You're supposed to let this sit for up to 2 hours. We normally let it sit for about an hour before we put the next ingredients in. but we're rolling film. We're going to compromise and not let it sit for the full hour. You should let it sit for the hour, and we normally do when we're not filming.
So I'm again going to attempt to pour from this giant bottle into this little teeny spoon. And it's really not easy to do.
Kieselsol does, I believe, it's positive charged particles that cling to it, and then they sink to the bottom, and the Cheeto sand does the opposite, the negative charged. So if you put them both at the same time, they can kind of counteract each other. So that's why you want to have the time for the Kieselsol to work before you put the Cheeto sand in. So I'm going to gently stir this for a couple of minutes, and we'll go on to the next step. So I stirred it up for about 3 minutes, took out about a 1/4 cup of must, and she's putting the ingredients in. She'll read them off real fast, and then I'll put them up on the screen as well.
So I put in a teaspoon of the Cheeto sand, 1/16 of this potassium metabisulfite,
1/16 teaspoon.
1/16 teaspoon, yes. A 1/4 teaspoon of bentonite, and a 1/2 teaspoon of potassium sorbate.
She's stirring it up on the must really good, so that, or the wine actually, so that we can pour it back in, and there's less stirring required because it's already mixed in.
The bentonite seems to try to still stick to the
It's
container,
clay.
so
It's clay, so clay and liquid kind of repel each other a little bit.
we'll see how this goes.
Anytime you're stirring it at this phase, you want to be gentle and not introduce more oxygen than you need to. Oxygen was good at the beginning of this project. After there's alcohol in it, oxygen is not good, so try to keep that limited. Okay, we got that stirred in pretty well, about 3 minutes. Now we're going to check the pH. We are not going to show this to you, but we want pH to be between 3.3 and 3.8 for red wine before it's bottled. We do this now so that the ingredients, if we have to add stuff to adjust the pH, have time to go down to the bottom. If you wait until you bottle, you may have to add another 2 or 3 or 4 weeks to let any ingredients that you add to adjust the pH sink to the bottom, and we would rather get it out of the way now. We'll check it again before we bottle, but we're going to check it now. Okay, so our pH is 3.66. She's going to put that on the batch note. That is an acceptable pH.
Yay.
So we don't have to adjust it. Watch our pH video if you take your pH measurement and you need to adjust it, because it gives you more information on what you need to do. So we cleaned up a little bit. Now we need to put our oak in. We put oak in Cabs, Merlots, Chardonnay sometimes. If we're going to put any other infusers in, we usually use a little metal infuser, a tea infuser. But typically, if we're not putting in other ingredients, we'll just put the oak on top. It does float, at least for a while. But eventually,
like that.
eventually it'll probably sink. It obviously has more surface area exposed if it sinks. If it doesn't, it's not the end of the world. You may have to have it on the oak longer, or I guess the oak on the wine longer. We have a little more headroom here than I like. So we are going to use some food-safe glass marbles to raise the wine up to about where the threads start. Anybody that said I lost my marbles?
He found them, part of them.
Now what do you say?
There's more though. He's missing more.
Well, a lot of them are in lines. There are other ways you can eliminate this headroom. You can put other wine in here. We've done that before. That would be a valid thing to do now. You could use a different size jar. In this case, that's not really going to work because this is a gallon, and all of them are going to be a gallon probably. So we just carefully drop in these sanitized, lead-free, food-safe marbles. Don't put too many in at once, or you might end up with a crack on the bottom of your jar, and that would not be pleasant.
That would be a sad day.
So I've got the headroom up to about where I want it. We've got one more step left. So we brought out our food saver, and we're going to try to remove as much of the CO2 that's in this as we can now that we've transferred it from the original fermenter into this one. You want some CO2 to protect the wine a little bit when you're racking it. You can watch our video on oxygen and CO2 management that will show why we use the food saver, where you can get the tubing that fits, and all of that. I'm going to do this for 10 minutes and then we'll be back. Okay, so I got a lot of the CO2 out. We'll do this again before we bottle, after it's sat for a few weeks, to make sure we get all of the rest of it out before it goes into the bottle.
Yep.
Very last thing that we're going to do is put an airlock she prepared. And then this is going to go sit in our fermenting storage room for at least 4 weeks. We'll probably taste it in about 4 weeks and see what we think.
Thank you for watching our video. Hope you liked part 2 of Welcome to the Cabernet. If you are confused because you didn't see part 1, go take a look at it and you'll get the full recipe there. We aren't doing a part 3 because, well, bottling is bottling. So we have a video on bottling that you can check out as well. Thank you for watching again. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, please do. If you have already, thank you for your support. If you liked this video, please like it, make comments, tell us what you liked about it, ask questions, we will reply. Until next time, cheers.